Hi there, everyone. It's Jamie Greenwood here talking to you today. Another episode. Can we call them episodes? Another
Well, it's
episode.
not like episodic while we're having the episodes. I don't know, or that we actually don't have an episode while we're talking, then I don't think that would be good.
Exactly. Okay, so now you know where we're going. Everyone, this is Jen. And as always, talking about how to feel at home in the body. That is my passion, the thing that I love to talk about the most, because there's so many avenues of how we pull ourselves away from feeling at home in our bodies, and how do we come back? Because it seems to be a never-ending cycle of like going in, losing ourselves, having to come back over and over again. And
Mm.
my guest today is Jen Louden, who is a speaker and an author and a mother and lots of things. Has written countless books and
Countless. Can't even
countless.
count them.
I mean, I could one, two, um, but that's what Jen does, and that's not why I wanted to interview her. That's not why she's here today. She's here because of who she is. She is funny and clever and thoughtful and deep. You're so deep and very, very just real.
Mm.
Which I just wanted to get your real perspective on the body and how you felt about her over the years. I like to call her her because I
I
think,
like that.
yeah, because we tend to think of it as like an it, like this thing that just is always pissing us off. It never looks the way we want it to look. It never feels what we want it to feel. And yet when you think about her as her, like her own living being,
Mm.
it's kind of cool.
It
So
is. I like.
it is. It's kind of cool. So there are a million things I want to talk to you about, but I think what I want to talk to you about first is just where am I catching you right now in your body?
Bad. No, that's not true. Was bad is better. So I'm 51, and aging has brought up a whole new set of body issues.
Yeah.
And I never thought those would happen. And I remember as a young woman and, all the way into my, probably until about 45, not understanding why anyone had any trouble with aging. And quite frankly, being a little judgmental about people who had trouble with aging and being very judgmental about people who had plastic surgery. And that's really changed. I haven't had plastic surgery yet.
I was
But,
like, ooh, what? It's on the
I'm
books. No, I'm kidding.
Well, I'm scared of that. I'm scared of that for a bunch of reasons.
Yeah.
So I don't know that I'd go that route. But it's really hard to see your body change. It's hard to not be able to do the things I used to do. I had back issues for the last 6 years, and they'll get resolved, and then they'll come back. And they've been pretty consistently painful for about a year now. And so I can't move the way that I used to move. I can't do yoga the way I used to do. I've always been pretty physical and very strong. And, things sag where they didn't used to sag even a few years ago. And my skin is crepey in a way that it would be before. And my neck looks really different than it did like even a year ago. And that's not going to go away. And even if I did say, hey, I'm going to have some plastic surgery, which I don't think I'm going to, because it's scary and I don't like the idea of where that would take me psychically, it's still the reality of aging. And so learning to be with that and have a relationship with it, it's really hard. And it takes up more time and space in my head than I want.
Yes. The amount of energy, time, and space that are worrying about our bodies and harassing our bodies and kind of having this internal war being waged about how we look, the amount of psychic space that takes up is incredible.
Yeah, I remember reading The Beauty Myth, Naomi Wolf's seminal book, when it came out. I think it was 91 or 92, about the same time my first book came out, The Woman's Comfort Book. And it was my Bible, and I preached that. And I gave away my scale, and I was an early Janine Roth person. So, I got it all at that age. It's not that I didn't still struggle. I've always kind of had a relationship with my weight where I'm a muscular person. I'm never one of those thin, tiny people, or, that are sort of the ideal in the magazines. And I've been chunky a lot of my life, and I don't like the way that feels. But I made a lot of peace with that until the aging piece added on to it. And it really tips me over the edge some days. Some days it's not. Some days I'm feeling better and I'm able to exercise, and maybe I'm not looking in the mirror very much, and I'm like, yeah, I feel 12, I am 12.
Right.
But then other days, it's like, whoa, you catch a glimpse of yourself in the mirror, or someone takes a picture of you, and you're like, oh my God, that's what I look like. That's not how I feel. So playing with that and making, like, almost like becoming into reality with that is where I am, to give you a very long answer to your first question.
Thanks. Well, and my follow-up to that is, you mentioned back pain. And on your website, there's also a little blurb about having kind of long-standing, low-grade illness. I'm going to let you take the longest sip of water. And I know that for me, when I was sick, and I really was trying to do everything right, I felt a very strong sense of betrayal with my body. And I want to know if you've ever felt like, you're trying to do the right thing. Have you ever felt betrayed?
I haven't. I don't feel betrayed by my body. I feel betrayed by my willpower.
Ooh.
Yeah. So if I was a better person, then I would never, ever eat sugar that makes me feel bad. If I was a better person, I would figure out what kind of rehab to do for my back, and I would do it perfectly. Those are the kind of internal conversations I've had about not feeling well or being hurt. But I don't feel that kind of separation in my body. I'm very kinesthetic, and I'm very somatically aware. So maybe that's why. I'm really aware of how I feel. I really process things through my body. So maybe that's why I don't feel separated from it. I don't blame it. I blame my mind, which totally makes sense for who I am, right? I should be able to think my way out of it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Well, and then this gets to the point of, what are your beliefs on kind of heart, head and heart, body and brain? Do you believe that they're separate, or do you believe that they need to be always working in conjunction? Because sometimes I always think about, like, my brain is the thing that is steering me down the dark rabbit hole, and if I just listen to my body, like, I will be safe. But I'd love to get your thoughts, because we do need our brains, but then...
Yeah, I don't think it's a matter, I guess I have two answers, or 5 or 7. One, I don't think it's a matter of belief. I mean, science has proven beyond, any, even a climate change denier's need, that we're all one, that our systems are deeply interconnected. So I don't have to believe that. What I have come to understand is that through years and years of meditation practice, is that my mind is wonderful and it does many things really well, but I don't want to believe my thoughts. I don't want to believe my mind. I always want to be the witness for it, kind of dropped back behind it. And the same thing for my feelings. As a 4 on the Enneagram, I've always been like, oh, feeling, and that's really bad news for me. So I drop behind my feelings too, not to disassociate from them, but to realize that really what I want to be is in that centered seat of consciousness as much as possible, and watching everything else go by, being relaxed about it, experiencing it, but not identifying with it. And I think that includes my body, to really be present to pain in my back, or the pleasure of sex with my new husband, or a great meal we had last night that my girlfriend made. Oh my God, to enjoy that, but not to identify with it, because that gets into that graspy place.
Yes, exactly. When we get to the place of, this is the best thing I've ever eaten, but now I have to eat all of it because I'm never going to let myself have it again.
Yeah, exactly
I'm going to stuff my face with the leftovers as I'm putting them away, because I'm not eating this ever again.
Yeah.
And you're right. So we get into a...
or we're savoring it in such a way that we feel that we have to... I don't know. There's a real, when we can not identify with the meal, but we can savor it, we can not identify with the feeling of love or betrayal or anxiety. I was having a lot of anxiety today about getting a bunch of stuff done before I go on a big trip. And, if I didn't make the anxiety go away, I didn't make it wrong, but I kept telling myself, I'm aware of the anxiety. I am not the anxiety. I'm aware of that great meal last night. Oh, this is fabulous. And I'm also aware of, wow, I've had enough. I don't want to be uncomfortable.
Yes. Yeah, that's kind of the sweet spot to catch
It
yourself
is.
in.
It
And
is.
then it's also okay when you go past that sweet spot and you're like, we're going in. Like I was reading one of your posts. It was like, I've had too many caramel chocolates and my yoga pants don't fit. And
Yeah.
it was such a beautiful admission, and at the same time it was like, and I can begin again.
Those are
This
the best words in the English language. The Benedictine tradition not add something extra to it. Always begin again,
always
which I
begin again.
love because always implies that you're going to have to, right?
Yes. Yes, and then with that comes compassion and gentleness. Like I know I'm going to begin again. This
And there's the chance to step out of your story and witness it. Because
yeah.
one of the things that I see happen in people who preach the compassionate self-love message is that sometimes it becomes permission to do whatever you want.
Mm.
It can get really mushy. And I see people get really stuck and be like, oh, well, I'm uncomfortable doing that, so I'm going to take this, I'm not going to do that. And it's like, no, it's not about being comfortable or uncomfortable. It's about your ability to stay centered and witness that. So if I witnessed myself overeating last night, which I didn't, but, often do, then can I stay with the discomfort of that? The discomfort almost of betraying myself.
Yes.
Without adding the second arrow of you shit.
Yeah. Exactly, because then that becomes more weighty than whatever weight you're feeling in your body about the food.
And every research study shows it completely cuts you off from beginning again, and it actually sends you to eat more food or whatever I call shadow comforts.
Yes.
Whatever your shadow comfort du jour is.
Yes, any form of numbing. And numbing with eating food is very popular, let's say, but numbing by withholding food is very popular.
Strict, like, oh no, I'm just going to be a green juice person and all that crap. It makes me insane.
Exactly. Well, and then numbing with over exercise. Like that's its own form of numbing too. It's all its own way of not being home in your body and really checking in with what's going on with her in this moment. Like what's true. I want to actually talk to you about, you mentioned having sex with your new husband. That's not what I want to talk about, though we can talk about that later. But I actually want to talk about your first husband because I know that you are divorced from him, and
yes, that's good. Otherwise, I'd be a bigamist.
Otherwise, you'd be a bigamist. And again, it's another conversation. But you didn't know that you were getting a divorce.
It was Chris Macio, my ex-husband's idea. He started that process. Eventually, and after leaving for a few months, he came back and wanted to start again. And we tried. I said no, and then I said yes, but you have to court me. You've really broken my heart, and you're going to have to reestablish trust. And he was trying, but it wasn't really working. And then I decided that it was over. So it was, in the end, more mutual. But in the first few months, it was deep. What? I think my daughter said it best when I told her. And she said, I knew you guys fought, but I never thought it was that bad. And that was very much my feeling. We've been together since we were 22. Yeah. So 23 years, yeah.
And so my question is, when your partner decided that he didn't want to be with you anymore, in essence, because again, I always think about things through the body. When my husband did that to me, I took it as like he never wants to touch this body again. He never wants this piece ever again. And I realized that I had to choose myself. If he wasn't going to choose me, I had to choose myself. And I wanted to know kind of what your experience was, or did you have an experience with any sort of body image, anything, when that whole thing came up?
You know what I did was I got into a brief, inappropriate relationship with a guy after we had split up. Didn't last very long, and because he was a depressive alcoholic, although incredibly good looking and incredibly smart.
Okay, again, everyone, this is why I love.
a kind heart, but
This is why I love you, because you're like,
I was clear. Yeah, I was clear enough seeing that. Oh my God, what am I thinking? But I was so hungry for attention, and I remember my daughter was in 8th grade at the time. She's almost 20 now, and she had a bunch of friends over, and they were all draped around the living room. And one of them was checking her phone every 3 seconds. Has he texted yet? Has he texted yet? And then I was going in, unbeknownst to the kids, and checking my email. Has he emailed yet? Has he emailed yet? Yeah. And it was a real wake up for me. It was very scary, actually, because I saw myself as this deep, mature, a 44, 45-year-old woman, 45, and not someone who was needy and was going to run after some guy.
Yeah.
And so it took me years to forgive myself for that. I mean, nothing bad happened. I did it. We started to see each other. I told we weren't divorced, but we were split up. I mean, there was nothing. There was no cheating. Lily never knew anything about it. Didn't go on for very long, but boy, it really spoke to this part of myself that was so needy because Chris had not only left the marriage, but had been leaving for a while. And I wasn't aware of how much I needed physical love and affection. And I remember that guy saying to me, he just said something like, you just need to be seen and loved. And I just melted because that's exactly what I did need. But because I was so needy, I wasn't checking out the signs what am I thinking?
Right.
This guy lives on the other side of the country. He's 14 years older than I am, and something's not right. I'm smelling something that's not right. So that's how it played out. And then it was very interesting. I got in the best shape of my life. I worked out for an hour to an hour and 15, 20 minutes every morning. I do an exercise video with my weights, and then I do yoga. And sometimes I'd only do one, because I had a long-time yoga practice. I got in such great shape. So I think that's the other way I dealt with the feeling of not being confident. If anyone was ever going to see me naked again, it's going to be really good.
Yeah.
And then luckily, I don't know, honestly, Jamie, how much I repaired that on my own. I think that I was lucky enough to meet my now husband, and he is a really good guy. And I think the relationship and the coming together and the years of that, which was not easy. He had issues, I had issues, our kids had issues. Bringing that together and working through that and being willing to work through it, I think, is what healed a lot of that for me. But if I could have easily gotten probably involved with another shithead, and I just got saved. I think saved from myself.
You did.
People ask me for relationship advice. I'm like, oh no, I'm not going there. I got lucky, and that's all I can say. I mean, that's not true. Bob and I did tremendous work together to make our relationship work.
Yeah.
That's
but
really true.
Again, one of the things I love about you most is just how honest you are. And I really appreciate your honesty around, I don't know how much of that body stuff I actually healed before I met my now husband.
Yeah, who just adores me. And my body does not look like the body he fell in love with at 45. And he honestly says, you don't look any different to me. I'm like, Mo, you gotta be kidding me. I don't have a waist anymore. Do you see where my butt is? Same thing.
So what do you think that is? Last question, what do you think it is about women where we get so attached to how we look? We forget about everything that we've accomplished. We forget about how smart and how funny and how giving and how loving and how tremendous we are. And all we think about is our neck and how we've lost our waist.
All right. I think I really approach it from a feminist point of view. I think it's the culture that we live in, that it is indoctrinated pre-verbally. My mom is still at 79 and moderate Alzheimer's, living in memory care, very beautiful. And I grew up with a beautiful mom who was valuable because she was beautiful and because she took care of my dad and entertained their friends. I grew up in that model. My parents, I'm 51, so my mom was 27, so different generation than some people listening. And it was very formative. And then we grew up in a world that is still the world that my daughter grew up in. And the world that we're all navigating, where our looks are the first thing that are noticed, comment upon, and valued. And if you don't think it's true, just look at all the shit that Hillary Clinton's gotten about how she looks and the size of her ankles and what she wears that no male politician ever gets.
It's true.
So I think it's in the water, and while I can perceive that as a cultural critic and I can approach it as a feminist, it still goes right into my body image. So it's this constant pulling out and going, I am not my neck. I doesn't matter. All I want to do is feel good again. And yes, I live my life that way, and those are my priorities. I'm not getting plastic surgery. I'm not going on a green juice cleanse, you know. Yes, that's called starvation. I am, you know, doing all the right things, but there's still this story that I have to navigate, and it pisses me off. Yes. It really does. And I know it's up to me to get it out of myself. I know it's up to me, but I also know that we live in a cultural context. So I refuse to take it entirely personally. I don't think I'm broken or bad because I miss my waist.
Thank you. That is so beautifully said, because I think as people on what I would say a self-empowerment or a spiritual path, we don't want to feel negatively about ourselves the way we normally do. And then when we do feel negatively about ourselves, we berate ourselves for being negative.
Right, we take it personally. No, don't do that. Put it into a political context. If you haven't read The Beauty, read it. It's not dated. Read Eve Ensler's book that she wrote about having cancer. Watch one of her talks about it. But you have to keep feeding it. This is the part that pisses me off, right? You have to keep being alert to it because it creeps back in. It creeps back in when you get to be a certain age, men don't look at you anymore. Now, personally, I love that because I always thought it was creepy. But, you have to get adjusted. Like, you're invisible. Wow, okay. Little things will trigger you. Or like last night, being at dinner with my girlfriends and raising my arm and going, oh, what's moving in there, Oh, that's such a weird new feeling. Oh, my pants don't fit that I want to wear on this trip. Then I have to go to it again from this feminist perspective. And that helps me a lot. But it's still there, and it pisses me off. So I'm repeating myself because I'm pissed off.
I'm pissed off and I'm not going to take it anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Except I'm still taking it. So it's up to me to keep getting out of it. Yeah.
And remembering that we are our bodies, but we are not the sum of how she looks.
Right. And that my story is framed by this cultural story, and I can keep dropping it. And the more I drop it, and the more I'm in that witness consciousness, the less that it has to define me. I could have grown up in another culture, and I would have a completely different story. There's that great story that Clarissa Pinkolas Estes shares in Women Who Run with the Wolves, and she's a very large woman. And she went to her people, I believe, down in Mexico someplace. Yeah. And they were like, what? Are you sick? You're so thin. Have you not been eating? What's the matter? Because they were all big people. If you were a Maori, if you're, different South Pacific cultures, bigger, Hawaiian, bigger, normal, a sign of beauty, a sign of prosperity. Why are we supposed to be skinny?
Yeah.
Why are we supposed to look like concentration camp victims?
Exactly.
I'm very curious about that, and it still bugs me. So it's both, right?
Yeah, I have a girlfriend who's an actress, and she's very thin. And I saw her a few months ago, and she was just eating like lettuce and like an egg. And I was like, "What?" And she's like, "I'm auditioning for a new role, and they want the lead character to look fragile."
Oh.
And I was like, "Oh my God, another fragile female."
Right.
But it's like either you're fragile or you're like angry and kick ass. But there's no in the middle person like us who feels it all and is it all and is just navigating it all.
Right, so we don't have those mirrors, and consciously we can say, I don't need those mirrors, but it's still creeping in. When you look at, I get More magazine, for women over 40, but do they choose women who look like me to be on the cover, sort of ordinary-looking people? No, they choose women who have had plastic surgery who are over 40. And if they haven't had plastic surgery, they're airbrushed on that cover. So the message is you can be beautiful at 40 plus, but they're not giving us the real thing. So that's that double. Do you get what I mean? There's like a double
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
we're
It's totally fine to be aging, but you need to age very gracefully.
exactly right.
Like,
And yeah, and that's not going to happen for
it's
most of
not
us.
going to happen for most of us. And then I think that there is also this like really delicate middle path where we have to be careful. It's awesome to get angry and be like very aware of what's going on, but
You
then
can't stay there. It's
you can't
exhausting.
stay there. And also to say
No.
just like fuck it. Like I said fuck it for like 3 years in my life and like
Mm-hmm.
never wore makeup, kept my hair in a bun and wore yoga pants everywhere. And
Mm-hmm.
in my mind that was like a silent revolt of like screw you. I'm not looking the way you think I'm supposed to look. But at
Mm-hmm.
the same time, I didn't feel like myself. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
feel fully expressed. And I think that there is this middle path between like, not getting sucked into how you're supposed to look, but then stepping into your own beauty. And what's the representation of that?
And it's tricky. It's tricky. I agree with you, but I also see a lot of women out there in internet land saying, I'm an expression of my beauty. I don't buy it. I buy it that they're using it to market. I buy it that they're like, there's this whole sexy thing where, look at me with my, hey, look, I have my yoga top on here. Look at me.
You are hot.
But that, to sell shit. And that, I think you're totally right, but it's hard because we've been enculturated so much. I know, because I really need a pedicure, but I haven't been getting one because we're going to Bali for our honeymoon, and I wanted to wait to get it till the day before we leave because it'll last for the whole time. So my feet, I do it myself, but it's not the same. And I'm like, yeah, that makes me feel less pretty. So that's the middle way for me, to take care of my feet so they look pretty. Is the middle way for me to wear makeup? I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know because I'm so like, my mom put on makeup. I put on makeup when I go out of the house. Not a lot, but I put on some. Would I do this interview without makeup? I don't think I could. Is that my middle way or the culture's middle way? Or do I just, it gets messy.
Yes. It does. It gets.
I just keep playing with it. I just.
Well, and I think that what you just said is the answer. Is continuing to play with it. Continuing and continuing to see where you fit in and what is true for you in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Like most of the time when I check in, I'm like, I want to wear my glasses. I'm not wearing my glasses today because amazing. But like checking in around like what's going to make me feel the best. Culturally, it's I shouldn't be wearing glasses because I look like a big dork. But like what if
I thought they were cool.
They're cool. I mean,
now.
Okay, let me take it back. They're cool if they look like yours. I am blind, so they're like Coke bottle.
Oh yeah, see there we go. There's this all those little clues. So often we're parsing them without even aware of them. We're not even aware. And then the question becomes: are we in relationship with it? What parts are these? Is this relationship helping us live more true? To find more of the shape of our true life? And if we're going to play the game, are we aware that we're playing the game?
Yes.
And why are we playing the game? And what is it costing us? And that's really the dance of life. We just get an extra level of it, an extra layer, rather.
We do. We do. And
which,
hey, we can take it. If anyone can take it, it's us. We have incredible capacity. So I think we'll be okay. Jen,
all right. We'll end on that note. We're going to be okay.